There are a lot of problems in Marvel Rivals. While the game's still extremely fun and myself and many others are still enjoying it every single day, there are legitimate problems with the rank system, the balance, and other features that we are desperately needing in Marvel Rivals. That's why in this video we're going to go over the 10 biggest things that Marvel Rivals needs to fix so that it can be the best it can be. And the first place that we have to start is with the matchmaker. Because I think a lot of complaints come from the matchmaker, and with the devs having to directly address EOMM and players believing that EOMM was a thing, or maybe even still believe. But even if you believed then or didn't believe, and then the devs come out with a video that says, oh, it's actually not true, well, then players are kind of left with, okay, well, then the rank system is just terrible. Like, the rank system's just really bad, if it's so bad that we think that there's some innate problem with it. Now, even though I was a really active and vocal person against EOMM, not believing it exists, or rather it didn't even matter if it did or not, I will say that this rank system needs a lot of work, and there are some really easy wins that Rivals can implement to make it better for everybody. And I think the first one is a placement system. Put placements in the game. If someone makes an ult, or if someone even wants to smurf for whatever reason, they have to grind through bronze, silver, gold. Yes, it'll be faster, but they have to do that, and people do that all the time, especially with the shorter seasons. Players are reaching their peak, and then they're making ults, they're making smurfs, they're grinding through other people's elo, and it's creating a worse experience altogether. You can have a lot of extra variance because every once in a while, there's a smurf on either side that just means the game is unwinnable for the other side, and it's just a frustrating experience. So I do think that placements are the easiest way to get rid of that. Now, I'm not saying you place people directly into like Celestial or whatever, but I am saying that you play 5 to 10 games, they heavily alter your elo in those games, trying to place you in wherever it thinks you are, and then it like puts you in like maybe high diamond or something like that, and then you grind the rest of the way from there. I think this is one of the most important things they could implement, and at this point, I'm not even sure why it hasn't been implemented, but I hope we see it soon. Now, while placements is a common ground that I think most people could agree with, the second one is a little bit more controversial. I think less performance gains should be given to players in general, but especially when you're in the really high elo. So how it works right now is that you get more performance gains in the lower elos, and then as you climb, it kind of teeters off, where it gets less and less, and in the highest of elos, you're still getting some amount of performance gains, but not as much as you did before. So that means that your individual performance doesn't impact how much rank you gain or lose as much in the higher rank as it does in the lower rank. I personally believe that this should be reduced even more so, and maybe even past a certain rank. They don't even take performance into account. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, no, if I pop off, if I get MVP, I deserve to be compensated for that and get extra rank. Or if I get SVP, I deserve to not lose as much. But the problem with all of this is that it encourages players to not play to win and play to get stats and farm MVP. So like under the current system, if you have a Spider-Man player that is like actually ace, right? He's doing fairly well, he's getting picks, he's not dying, but your team is constantly getting run over by like a hard brawl comp that's running through your team, and you need like frontline damage pressure for the Thing, or you need anti-dive for their Black Panther, or like any of these things that you need, the Spider-Man that is doing reasonably well in Spider-Man, or rather the only one on your team that can do what he wants to do, because Spider-Man has freedom of movement, he can go wherever he wants to go, he doesn't care about things like space or stuff like that, similar to other characters do, so he's gonna have more value in a world where your tanks aren't allowed to play the game. So that Spider-Man is not incentivized to swap, because if he swaps and y'all still lose, he's gonna have much worse stats because he's playing a character that is worse for himself but better for the team. So I really don't like that this encourages that, where you encourage players to try to min-max their performance, and even in losses lose less, and then in wins win more, and not play to win. I think this is something that creates a lot of bad games, because players give up on a game very easily. They just say, okay, I'm just gonna go farm stats, I don't even care about winning this game, and it makes it so that games that could have been winnable, no one even wants to try if the game doesn't go well right off the bat. I personally think that playing to win should be the most important thing, and it should be the thing that is encouraged more than everything else, and I think performance gains should be something that we pull away from, especially after the introduction of placements. Players are ideally going to get placed closer to where their real rank is, so you'll have less of a need to give people massive performance bonuses to boost them to the rank that they actually belong in. I think another part of this is you should have a positive win rate if you're going to climb. Like, if you're climbing from one rank to the next, you should have to have a positive win rate in that rank to climb. If you're going 45% of the wins, 50% of the wins in one rank, and you're still managing to make it to the next rank, then that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're doing it based on some weird performance, and you could say, oh, well, I only won 45% of my games, but I played really well in the games that I lost, and I played amazing in the games that I won. Who cares? You won less than half your games. Like, in what world do we reward people for not winning in a system that is supposed to separate winners and losers in each elo? I don't really understand it. Now, another layer to all this is just have more transparency in general and why. Like, the devs broke down that sometimes the matches aren't perfectly even. Sometimes you're the highest elo on your team in a match. Sometimes you're the lowest elo player on your team in a match. And sometimes the teams themselves are favored or unfavored because they're not absolutely perfectly balanced, even if they're very close to perfectly balanced. All of that can affect how much rank you gain and lose. I think that it would be a good idea if they just had little indicators that just told us what's going on. They said, like, you were going to lose or likely to lose the game, or it predicted that you were going to lose the game. You were also the lowest ranked player on your team, but you had an outstanding performance, so it's going to give you extra bonus points, and it's going to tell you all those things. So in a game that you were expected to lose on paper, if it played out exactly how the ranks added up to, and in a game where you were expected to underperform on your team, you overperformed, they're going to give you bonus, and it tells you all those things. And I think that that would be good so players understand why they got what, instead of being like, why did I get 15 this time, and now I got 25, and now I got 19, and it's just random. Like, I want more transparency, and I think it would allow players to really understand what's going on with the rank system, because even though I don't believe in, like, EOMM and all this stuff that players believe, I don't blame people for believing in this stuff, because there's not a lot of transparency. The less transparency in general in something, like the less you know what's going on, the inner workings of something, the more you are left to be skeptical and make conspiracies or whatever. And this is true in life too. Like, the more secretive governments are, the more secret businesses are, the more you're like, what's really going on? Like, that's just how it is. And if we don't know, then something is gonna fill that gap, or we're gonna make assumptions about things. So I want more transparency. I think that'd be a great thing, and it would have us questioning the rank system less. And I think more trust in the rank system, more transparency in the rank system, makes people want to play the game more competitively. It makes people want to try, makes people less likely to give up if they don't think it's all rigged and things like that. So I think that's all a really, really good thing. And then the fourth thing for matchmaking that I think is kind of the icing on the cake here is more avoid slots, but with good behavior. I think right now there's like a toxicity problem, and this is true in every game. There's players that are always toxic, players that are always saying things they shouldn't say, and just throwing games for no reason. I think that there should be a certain standing type thing that is being measured based on how many reports someone gets, and maybe even some type of system where you can, like, review your teammates, like how positive they were, whatever. But what happens is that if you are in good behavior where you don't get any complaints, no one reports you, nothing wrong happens, and the reports only come from people that also haven't been reported, right? So it's not like a whole bunch of toxic people reporting you and then you don't get the avoid slots, but just good behavior accounts reporting other good behavior accounts, and you get bonus avoid slots for that. So the system can figure it out and basically decide you are just a positive member. You're doing what you should be doing. You're not doing anything you're not supposed to. And because of that, you're going to get 4 or 5 avoid slots now instead of just 3. And I think that that's a crazy small thing, but a really big deal, because everyone that wants to have that toxic outburst, the end of the game, they want to just act like a fool. They're going to think twice, because they're like, if I act like a fool right now, I'm going to lose my avoid slot. And then I can't avoid, Jimmy and John, who's going to throw my games. So you got to understand that toxic people still want to win. They just really don't want to try and lose most of the time. But if there's some type of carrot at the end of the stick to, like, enforce good behavior, like more avoid slots, I think you can really make a mass correction to a lot of people that would be toxic and then all of a sudden just are not going to ever be toxic because they need those avoids. Now, we're moving away from matchmaking and moving on to balance, and there's going to be more hot takes in the balance section than the matchmaking section. I think there are some hot takes in matchmaking, but for balance, everyone's going to have their own opinion. Everyone's going to have their own personal point of view based on the characters you play, but these are my opinions based on someone that is a flex player that plays at the top 1%. So it is going to be a bit biased automatically, but this is how I see it. Number one, I think Luna Snow is the biggest problem right now in balance as a whole. I think Luna Snow, her ultimate especially, being so strong and being what it is, makes it really hard to justify other supports. And this is a problem because there's not a lot of support diversity when players are actually playing what is good or what is the best. Like, sure, you'll see diversity across all kinds of ranks for various reasons, but when players are playing what's actually legitimately good and what's the best they could play, Luna Snow basically is always going to be the answer, the best thing. It's a homogenizing nature of the meta is just Luna is too good. Luna is the thing you should be doing. So play Luna, because 12 seconds of a very hard to kill ultimate that keeps your team alive, that can combo and you could damage boost to kill through other support ultimates is just extremely strong, extremely powerful. And I do think that we can make Luna strong in other ways. Now, if you nerfed Luna ultimate to 8 seconds just outright, I don't actually think that Luna would be unplayable. I think she would actually be okay in the hands of someone that could aim. But there's no reason why we can't nerf her power in her ultimate and then buff her in other ways. Like, I think that most players just don't like Luna ult into Loki copy into maybe a third support ult and just rinse and repeat. Like, this giant amount of time where nothing is happening. Nothing is dying. I think that if you have to just go through a fight that is like a minute long or a minute 30 and there's just these giant sustained battles where nothing dies, that's just not that fun. Or like, if you find it fun, I think you would probably find it more fun where, you know, people trade, things die, people have counterplay. And I want to make it clear here, I'm not talking about dying instantly. I understand why support players don't like to die right away, you know, getting blitzed by a Black Panther or whatever. I'm talking about nothing dying over long periods of time, which happens a lot with these really powerful ultimates, where sometimes ultimates in a triple support comp, especially if you have two tanks that are taking a lot of damage, you'll have one Ultron ult into a Luna ult, into a Loki copy Luna ult, into another Ultron ult, into like 70% to a Luna ult. So if you haven't won the fight by there, you're gonna get like another Luna ult very soon. It's just like this gameplay loop that I think is super unfun for the vast majority of players. I think it's not something that we need to have in order to make characters fun. And I think in a lot of ways, Luna's strength makes it hard to justify playing other supports. And I think one of the biggest things I want to see is that I don't want to see all this triple support just everywhere when you buff other supports, because that's what's happening. We're seeing triple support instead because they don't want to get rid of the Loki and the Luna. They're playing other supports in addition to those two. I would love to see more combinations of two supports, you know, Ultron Luna, freaking Invis Rocket, Invis Atom, like all of these crazy combos. But right now, there's a giant emphasis on just defensive ultimates, really powerful defensive ultimates. And if you don't have the best one, then you're kind of doing something wrong. That's just the general idea, the general mindset. And I think that nerfing Luna Snow Ultimate is the first step in the right direction. Other changes will need to be made, maybe busted Luna in other ways, but definitely let's reduce the timing of all of these very long ultimates. But this also comes to the second thing that I think is necessary for balance, something that I would really, really like in Rivals personally, and it's a universal ult charge nerf. I think that in general, there is too much emphasis on ultimates. Ultimates are just so strong and so powerful and too easy to build. And this is my problem, right? Let's say there's a Loki, right? You're gonna go and make a cycle play against the Loki. You wrap all the way to the left side, you jump that Loki, he teleports away, you re-jump that Loki, he uses his totems, you disengage, you get healed back up, you come back in, and someone already has an ultimate, okay? Like, that is literally what happens. It's ultimates are built so fast, you don't even get cycles in the neutral, like not at all. There is like maybe one cycle of neutral play that if you don't execute well, the opponents already have ultimates. That's how fast they're being built. And there's a lot of characters that literally build an ultimate in like 30 seconds or less. And I think that that's just way too far. In a lot of ways, ultimates just feel like extension of abilities, and I know that people like to use them and they're fun, but I do think that they are just a little bit too fast. So like a global ult charge nerf of like 15-20%, maybe even more than that, 25%, I personally think would be a good thing. But of course, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know if you agree with it down below. Now, the third thing, I think that this is probably my hottest take in this, is there are two characters that need slight reworks, and it's two problematic characters, or two characters that have constantly been banned or constantly been seen to be very, very powerful, and it's Wolverine and it's Emma. And this is kind of my conclusion looking at these characters. Why are they so frustrating for players to deal with? Why are they always the target of being banned and things like that? And it really comes down to their crowd control abilities. Emma has her grab, and Wolverine has his leap, where he grabs you. These are very long crowd control abilities, but they are not tied to ultimates. They're tied to an ability. Like, I want you to think of all the other mass crowd control in the game, whether it's Emma's ults, whether it's the Thing ults, whether it's freaking Eye of Agamotto. All of these are ultimates, and there are things that you can play around based on ult charge, and they are possible to play around later. They're not going to hit you right away, but that's just not how it is with Wolverine and Emma. You start the game off, you instantly get grabbed. You start the game off, you instantly get pulled in. And I think in general, as a general philosophy, the long CC abilities should be reserved for ultimates and not abilities. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with these, especially when you combine like Wolverine with Rocket Jump, where he could just like pull you for like 10 plus seconds, where you get Emma putting you in a cutscene. These abilities are very, very strong, but almost overly strong. And we keep seeing the devs constantly nerfing them. Like, we looked at Wolverine Leap, and it's constantly getting more seconds added to how long the cooldown is. And then Emma, more seconds added to how long the grab is, or the diamond form is. So like, they understand that these abilities are too strong. Like, they get it. That's why they keep making the cooldowns longer and longer and longer. But here's what I would argue. If you got to make a cooldown extremely long to make it balanced, the ability should probably just be changed into something else. In general, I'm a fan of more often cooldowns. Don't have cooldowns that are like 40 seconds, like Soul Bond for Adam. Have more often cooldowns, because cooldowns are fun to use, and cooldowns should be used frequently. Have them being used often, but don't make them as strong. Like, you don't need a 20-second cooldown of something busted. Make a 10-second cooldown of something that's reasonably good, right? Or a 5-second cooldown of something that's just okay, but if you use it right, it can be good. So like, that's the idea, is that there's just more active use. And then also with my ult nerf, I think there would be like a clear distinction between commonly used abilities throughout the game all the time, trying to min-max those, and then ultimate set pieces that come up every like fight and a half, instead of, you know, every half fight. I think that would be generally a good thing. That's just my opinion. And one of the things that I would look at first is I would look at changing Emma's grab into maybe being much quicker, or changing the ability outright and changing it up a little bit. Now, in Wolverine's case, I think it's a little bit harder because it is pretty integral to the entire character as a whole. His leap, his grab, grabbing tanks, I think it's kind of integral to the entire, you know, playstyle of the character. Unlike Emma, where I think you could probably replace it with a different kind of ability, it should be fine. I don't know what that perfect solution is to Wolverine, but if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments down below. Then the last thing in balance that I gotta talk about is actually Human Torch. I think right now, if you play in reasonably high elo, you understand just how dominant this character is. He's literally perma-banned, because if he gets Ultron Drone, or if he gets Luna Snowflake, or both, or an Invisible Shield, or whatever, plus his movement tech, he's like impossible to kill. Like, he's almost impossible to hit, and it doesn't matter how well you could aim. Like, you literally can't kill this guy, because you hit one crit on him, he's not dead, and he's just gonna get healed up instantly. And it's really hard to hit crits on him because he's moving his hitbox so fast. And I think that the obvious thing here is to probably get rid of his movement tech. I'm a little split on this though, because on one hand, it is a skill expression that people have to learn how to be good at on Torch, but on the other hand, it's weird and kind of a gimmick where you have to like rebind your keys, and it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to do on controller. So I'm not really sure what the solution is, but obviously in his current state, he's just too strong, too powerful. And if they don't get rid of the movement tech, they're going to have to nerf him in some other ways that just makes it even harder for people that don't know the movement tech or can't do the movement tech to get any value on the character, because all the power is in his difficulty to be hit if you know how to do the tech. I just think they should probably get rid of it, most likely, but this is a pretty easy one. Now, there are also some more things that I think Rivals can do in order to really go over the top and become the best it possibly can be. And the first thing is obvious: more tanks and supports. I think a lot of the reasons why people are kind of frustrated with the way that the game is right now is that DPS just has all the fun. I mean, we got 2 DPS this season, and it's just way too much. I don't think they should ever do that again, like ever. And this comes from someone that has really been enjoying both Blade and Phoenix. they need more tanks and supports, and I think they need to be a steady stream of 1-1-1 always. But for now, let's just focus on tanks and supports for like the next 4 characters. And yeah, this would be great. If you give people more reasons to pick up tanks and supports, then there will be less of this problem where there's just all these insta-locking DPS. But one thing I will say, do not create another tank that destroys other tanks. That's one of the big reasons why Emma is so strong, and one of the reasons that I think she's a bit problematic. Her kit is that she's so good against other tanks. Like, yes, she's good against DPS too, mobility DPS, but she's so oppressive against other tanks. And I think in general, we should try to stay away from tanks that are good against other tanks and supports that are really, really oppressive against other supports. That kind of general idea, I think, is just a little bit too strong, and it makes it so that you introduce one tank, but you make it so a whole bunch of other tanks can't be played, or that tank has to be banned, just like Emma. I don't really like that, so that would be something I would say. Make some tanks that are good against DPS. Make some more Thors, some more, you know, 1v1 tanks. I don't know. Just do something like that. Now, there are several modes that I think that Rivals could use that would be great. Number one is a ranked deathmatch. I think it'd be really cool, especially if it's crossplay. I think it'd be cool to have a ranked mode that you know, both platforms can play on, that's not too competitive but pretty fun, and you still get some rewards for it. And yeah, I think that would be really cool. And also tryhard free-for-all would be really cool. Basically what tryhard free-for-all is just a free-for-all mode that doesn't have a whole bunch of characters and some abilities are disabled, where it's very mechanically focused. Just a really cool place to actually practice mechanics, because it's pretty dumb when you're trying to run a Doom match and there's just like a whole bunch of pennies just sitting around, or people are just like role-playing or whatever they're doing. Like, I want a place where I can go in and like be with sweaters that are actually trying to be mechanically crispy, right? That's what I want. Create a mode for that. That would be really cool. Another thing is 100% ult charge mode, where you just build up your ultimates very quickly. You're in a room, you're just spamming it. They had something like this in Overwatch. It was one of the most fun and popular modes. I do think there's a chance that it would probably like fry your Xbox, but it would be worth it. That's what I would really want. And then mystery heroes, I think, would be cool, where you're just playing just a normal game with mystery heroes. But the thing I want even more than that is gun game, where you have to get a kill on every single character. Every time you get a kill on a character, you move on to the next character. I think that would be so freaking sick. Gun game would be absolutely awesome. You would have to create probably a custom map for it, but gun game sounds so freaking cool. And then I am missing the old maps, so hopefully we get the new map pools back. I really think that it was probably too early to like restrict the maps. I think I keep running into the same maps this season, and it's kind of like hitting my head into the wall. So once these maps come back, it will feel really fresh. So yeah, I hope that we get those back, and maybe they change up some of the maps that they pull from the map pool. We'll have to wait and see. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, definitely smash the like, subscribe, and if you disagreed with me, let me know in the comments down below, even though I know I'm objectively correct. Anyways, thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you next time.